Hey everyone, welcome to the Ingle Edit. I'm Laura Ingle. Tonight, I wanted to talk to you about this new 43-second in full video of the Delphi case down the hill, the bridge guy. We've been hearing very small snippets of this video. We heard it in court and when everybody was looking for the suspect in the murders of Abigail Williams and Libby German from the murders in February of 2017. That video was a critical piece of evidence in trying to track down who the suspect was. And of course, as we now know, Richard Allen was arrested and now convicted of the double homicide. But we knew that there was more video. We always did. And prosecutors said that they would release it at some point. But tonight, people that are backing Richard Allen that have a website have leaked it. They have put it out on their website while also filing court paperwork today against his conviction. But nonetheless, the story really is about these seconds that we're viewing, these last few seconds of these two young girls' lives. We know that something tragic happened once they did go down the hill with the suspect, and you see mostly gravel and feet during this, but you really get the perspective that the suspect was coming up right behind Abigail as she was walking on the Monon High Bridge. This is video, imagery, sounds we haven't heard through any of this story coverage. And now tonight we have it.
See, this is the path that we go down. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here.
I took this video October 19th, 2023, and you can see it looks much different than the day Abby and Libby went missing, the day that Libby took that 43-second video that we just watched. And you can see that you can't get across the bridge anymore. There's a lookout point with a railing preventing you from walking on the bridge the way that Abby and Libby did that day. The girls were found just a quarter mile from the bridge in a wooded area the day after they went missing. They were just 14 and 13 years old. It would take 5 years before a suspect was located. Richard Allen was arrested on October 26, 2022 for their murders and convicted on November 11, 2024. He was sentenced to 130 years in prison. One of the things I wanted to talk about was something that happened when I went to go cover this story with my team at News Nation. I was there with my producer, Courtney Hahn, and we had gone there in October of 2023 because there was a controversy, there was a scandal, there was a devastating turn in this case when someone somehow had leaked the crime scene photos, the actual photos of how the girls were found in the woods. And as we know, it was somebody in the lawyer's office for Richard Allen that had got a hold of them and taken pictures and shared them. Then they got shared again. You know how it goes.
And that trail ultimately led back to the law office of Andrew Baldwin, who of course is one of the defense attorneys in this case. And to be clear, there's no evidence that Baldwin himself was involved in this leak, but it seems to have been done by a former employee and current friend of Mr. Baldwin's.
Now, help us understand, how would anybody have access to this type of material that, in any case, would be so carefully guarded?
I think that's a question that Judge Gull is going to try to get an answer to today, because she actually made a protective order governing this material, saying you have to keep this material under lock and key. So the fact that this person who doesn't even work at the firm was able to access it is a shocking surprise.
And when you saw those photos, you said there were 7 graphic crime scene photos. Did you think they were real? Did you immediately recognize what they were?
As soon as we saw those photos, the nature of them, we realized at once they were authentic.
So it was pretty bad, and it was a really big deal that day. So on our way to the courthouse, Courtney and I decided we wanted to go to see the Monon High Bridge. We wanted to take the walk. We wanted to do some videos, and we wanted to take a stand up, which is me standing up at the bridge talking about the developments in the case. We know that Liberty German took cell phone video on this bridge when she and her best friend Abigail Williams encountered a man who ordered them down the hill. And about a quarter of a mile from this very spot is where those leaked crime scene photos were taken. And what we still don't know to this day is what happened between this bridge and that remote area where the girls were found. So off we went. It was pouring rain. We got to the bridge. We did our stand-up where we were talking about the development in the case, about the leaked footage. And my cameraman said, I'm going to go shoot some B-roll of the bridge and the water and the river down below and take a long shot of the path. So he was doing that. And while we were talking about that, I turned around and suddenly there was this older gentleman right in front of us, and neither Courtney or I really saw where he came from. We didn't hear him coming. We didn't see him come. I don't know where he came from, if he came from down the path that we had come from, or if he'd come from maybe a path that was going down the hill. I'm not really sure, but nonetheless, it really startled us, and, you know, played it cool, started talking to him, and he was really close to me, and it was really unnerving. So I took out my cell phone and I started filming him and asking questions just to see what he would say. Here's how it went.
So Abby and Libby,
Why are you
the
here?
family. This is the 5th time I've been out. God led me here for one thing, but to get an understanding of what happened to these 2 little girls. And I believe the man was on the southeast end of the bridge to start with. Mm-hmm. But I have some theories about how he got into the area and how he left, but I won't mention that on the air.
All right.
And
you've been here how many times?
This is my 5th time from Central PA.
And why? What draws you here?
Just to get an understanding of these 2 little girls. There's very strange things at the crime scene that were very unusual.
Mm-hmm. Like what?
I cannot tell you that.
Are you an investigator?
Well, I can't tell you that either.
All right. Can you tell me your name?
My name's Sean.
Can you tell me your last name?
Uh,
How do you spell that? Okay, so after that video was taken, we started walking back to our car. It was a pretty long clip to get back to the parking lot. And I had turned on my phone again because it was time to call in for our editorial meeting back in Chicago and in New York. We check in at a certain time of the morning and we go over the news of the day. And I had taken the camera and my iPhone, and I was pointing it in back of me so that everyone could watch what was happening. And I was trying to whisper, we've got a man following us and we're not sure who he is. And it was kind of a crazy moment. So we kept him, you know, in sight as we went through this Zoom call. Courtney and I got to the parking lot, and she went over to the cameraman's car because we had to get to court. But this guy kept standing at my window, and he kept talking and talking, and maybe he was just friendly. Maybe he wanted to help. I still don't know who he is. I actually called my friend Cheryl McCollum. You know who she is. She's the host of Zone 7 and a cold case investigator. She runs the Cold Case Institute in Atlanta, Georgia. She's on with Nancy Grace all the time, and she's become a very good friend of mine. So I called her because I was unnerved, and I said, this really weird thing happened. And she said, you know what? I would call the Indiana State Police just to let them know about this, just in case, just so they know that there's this man out there, because, he could be talking to other people, maybe people who are alone on the trail, it could scare people. So I did call it in. I spoke to somebody at the Indiana State Police who said, go ahead and send the video. And they said, not for nothing, Laura, this isn't the first time we've heard this story before. We've heard of people appearing out of nowhere that have startled people that are on the bridge looking at where this infamous scene has taken place. So anyway, I sent them the video, and as the man was standing at my car door, which I can show you here, he was standing, it was pouring rain, so I had the window cracked, and he just kept talking, and he was talking to me about the victims' family members and talking like he knew them really well. He was talking about how Mike knew how to make a real mean cheeseburger. And he was talking about how, Libby's sister was getting counseling and he thought it was a really good thing. And it was just extremely personal information. And I listened for a little bit, but I had to go. And again, I called this into the police, and I've called back and checked with them several times to ask if they ever figured out who this guy was. Again, he wasn't threatening. It wasn't anything like that. It was just unnerving. That's all I can say about it. So I just wanted to share that with you as we get this new information with the 43-second video that we're all now watching, dissecting, and watching very carefully. It is such a tragic case. Our hearts go out to the victims' family members, to the family members of Abby and Libby. I have talked to them before in the past at CrimeCon and at the courthouse, and it never gets easier as we move through this story. And we'll have more for you here on the Ingle Edit.